Fig. The sun dipped low over the Pride Lands, painting the savannah in shades of gold and fire, as if warning the world that something extraordinary was about to begin. The wind whispered secrets among the tall grasses, carrying the scent of distant dangers and promises of love yet untold. Beneath Pride Rock, a young lion stood, his golden mane catching the last rays of the sun, too. His name was Kale. Heir to the Pride Lands, destined to rule, trained to obey, trained to dominate, but not trained to feel the stirring of a heart that refused to bend. Kale had always known duty. From the moment he took his first steps on the sacred rocks, every lesson, every roar, every challenge was meant to forge him into the king the Pride Lands demanded. Love was a weakness whispered about in cautionary tales. Compassion was only permitted if it served the kingdom. To love freely was considered folly, and Kale had believed it for a long time. But fate, it seemed, had its own plans. She came from the shadowed borders, a land the Pride Lands had called enemy for generations. Her fur was tawny but streaked with the dust and scars of survival. Her eyes held storms and courage that no training could teach. Her name was Leora. She was not a princess, nor a pawn. She was a lioness forged in hardship, sharp as the edges of the mountains she had called home. Her people had been at odds with the Pride Lands for decades, victims of past conflicts and misunderstandings that had left both sides wary and bitter. The first time Kale saw her, he froze. It wasn't fear, nor immediate desire, it was recognition. She moved with an elegance that was unclaimed, untamed. The grass between them swayed like the silence that followed, their eyes locking. For a long moment, neither moved. Around them, the world continued in its routine. Yet within that quiet space, something dangerous began. Curiosity. It flickered, then blazed. It was the spark of something neither Kale nor Leora could ignore. Their first encounter was cautious. Kale approached slowly, every step a negotiation between his instincts and the laws he had been raised to uphold. Leora's gaze never wavered. She studied him with the scrutiny of someone who had learned to survive, to trust instincts over appearances. Neither spoke. Words were unnecessary. The air itself carried the tension between duty and desire, and for the first time in Kale's life, he questioned what he had been taught. The Pride Lands were never far from his mind. Annette, standing before Leora, the rules of his world seemed distant, like echoes from a life that might no longer belong to him. He should have walked away. She should have fled. But neither did. Something unspoken called them together, something ancient and dangerous. Love that dared to defy expectation. Kale returned to the borderlands in secret, drawn by a force he did not yet understand. Every meeting was a test, a balance between longing and caution. They shared stories of their worlds, her tales of hardship, his of expectation, and slowly, trust began to blossom where once only war had lived. For her, Kale could imagine freedom. With him, Leora could imagine safety. But love, true love, was never simple. Each stolen moment was a rebellion. Each glance a challenge to the fate written for them both. The elders noticed the change long before love was named. Whispers crept through the Pride Lands like wildfire. The prince wanders where he should not. Too, the enemy lioness has captured his heart. Fear disguised itself as prudence. Kale was summoned, his loyalty questioned. The council reminded him of the circle of life, of the many wars fought in the name of order. Love was dangerous, they said. Love could destroy kingdoms. Love, they insisted, had no place for a king. Leora faced her own trials. Her pride distrusted her. They warned her that Kale was royalty, untouchable, and that getting close to him was asking for destruction. They reminded her of the blood already spilled by Pride Land's decrees. Loyalty was demanded. Survival depended on caution. But in the fire of Kale's gaze, Leora found courage she had not realized she still carried. She refused to turn away. The first clash came unexpectedly. Scouts from the Pride Lands and Leora's border pride collided at the edge of the plains. Teeth and claws met. The grass burned under the frenzy of anger and fear. Kale arrived too late to prevent it. Leora's roar cut through the chaos, a call not just to fight, but to survive. In that moment, Kale realized the first true test of their love. Could it endure war? 2. Dove into the battle with a fury born not from duty, but from protection. Every strike was calculated, every move designed to shield her and those around her. She moved beside him, a storm of grace and power. Together, they became a force neither kingdom had anticipated. The clash ended, but the cost was clear. Both sides had tasted blood, and the fires of conflict were now impossible to ignore. That night, amidst the burnt grass and shattered pride, Kale and Leora met in secret. The moon painted the world silver as they stood close, bodies trembling from the exertion of the battle and the weight of their emotions. Kale's mane brushed against Leora's fur, and she shivered not from cold, but from the gravity of what they shared. "You survived," he murmured, his voice low, rough with emotion. "We survived." "We did," she replied, her eyes reflecting both fear and desire. "But this, us too, it will not survive the world if we stay apart." Kale pressed closer, aware that every second could be their last in peace. "Then we do not stay apart. Whatever comes, I will face it. Whatever they demand, I will defy it. You are worth every risk." Leora's heart pounded. She had survived hardships, battles, and betrayals, but never had she faced a love that demanded courage of her soul. And if the Pride Lands attack again, if they send their armies, she whispered. Kale's eyes hardened, but the fire in them was not rage, was resolve. "Then we fight. Together." The following weeks tested them beyond imagination. Skirmishes flared at borders. Both prides prepared for an inevitable war. Kale trained tirelessly, not only to lead, but to protect. Every exercise, every roar, every strategy was designed to keep Leora safe. She, in turn, taught him to trust instinct over expectation, to value love as a force, not a weakness. Their love became a weapon in its own right, subtle yet unyielding. And yet, the pressure mounted. Spies reported movements. Scouts carried warnings of armies mobilizing. The Council and the Pride Lands demanded obedience. Kale refused. For the first time, he truly defied authority. His love for Leora was not a rebellion of indulgence, it was a rebellion of truth. He understood that if he surrendered to the throne, he would surrender everything they had built in those secret moments. One fateful night, under a sky thick with stars, Kale and Leora met at the border cliff below. Them stretched the plains that would soon be soaked with blood. Kale turned to her. "This is no longer a test of us. It's a test of everything the world believes in. They will try to tear us apart. The armies will come. Our love, it will be judged by fire." Leora's gaze met his. "Then let the fire come. Who will endure? If we fall together. But if we survive, we will rewrite the rules." 2. The wind carried the scent of war and possibility. Their eyes locked, and in that moment, seduction was not a game of desire, it was a call to courage, a draw of the soul toward its counterpart. They embraced in the quiet before chaos, their hearts beating in unison, their spirits entwined. Whatever came next, they were no longer alone, no. And so the first part of their story ended not with defeat, but with a promise. The Pride Lands would awaken to the greatest conflict it had ever seen. A war that tested not only claws and fangs, but hearts, loyalty, and the unyielding force of love that refused to bow. The war did not announce itself with a single roar. It arrived in waves, each heavier than the last, until the savannah itself seemed to bow beneath its weight. Drums of thunder rolled across the plains as armies gathered, lines of lions stretching as far as the eye could see. Dust rose like smoke, and the sky darkened, as if the land already mourned what was coming. Kale stood at the front of his pride, his posture strong, his gaze steady, but his heart torn in ways no battle training could prepare him for. Across the field, far beyond the tall grass and broken stone, he could sense Leora's presence. He did not need to see her to know she was there. Love had sharpened his instincts. It was both his greatest strength and his deepest vulnerability. The Pride Lands, elders spoke of honor and survival. They roared speeches about ancient laws and necessary bloodshed. Warriors answered with thunderous cries, fueled by fear and loyalty. Yet beneath the noise, doubts spread quietly. Some looked at Kale and saw not just a prince, but a question: was this war truly inevitable, or had it been chosen? On the opposite side, Leora stood among her people, her body tense, her eyes fierce. She had been forced into a role she never wanted: symbol, leader, target. To her pride, she was proof that resistance was possible. To the Pride Lands, she was the spark that ignited everything. The weight of expectation pressed down on her. But she refused to let it break her. She would not allow love to become weakness. She would make it her weapon. The first clash was brutal. The ground shook as the two sides collided. Roars split the air. Claws struck flesh. The savannah, once a place of balance, became a battlefield of chaos and fire. Kale fought at the center, his movements precise, powerful, driven not by hatred, but by purpose. Every enemy he faced, every blow he struck, carried the same thought: survive, protect, endure. Leora fought with equal fury. She moved like a shadow through the smoke and dust, her strikes swift, her instincts sharp. Where Kale fought to protect, she fought to prove. Every enemy she faced reminded her that survival had always demanded sacrifice. And yet, even in the heart of battle, her eyes searched for him. They found each other in brief moments between clashes. A glance, a shared breath, a silent understanding. Those fleeting seconds fueled them more than any roar of command. Love, tested by fire, did not weaken it, intensified. As the days stretched into weeks, the war deepened. Neither side could claim victory. Losses mounted. Cubs were hidden away. The land itself began to change. Rivers ran shallow. Grasslands burned. Hunger crept in, alongside grief. Still, the fighting continued, driven by pride, fear, and the belief that stopping now would make all the loss meaningless. The elders pressed Kale harder, demanded total commitment, no mercy, no hesitation. They reminded him that kings were forged in war, not compassion. They warned him that his feelings were clouding his judgment. Kale listened, silent, but inside, something fractured. He saw the cost of obedience written in blood across the land he was meant to protect. One night, under cover of darkness, Kale slipped away from camp. Leora, at the old border ravine, the place where everything had begun. The air between them was heavy, charged with exhaustion and longing. They stood close, close enough to feel each other's breath, close enough to remember a time before war had claimed them. "This is getting worse," Leora said softly. "My people are breaking. So are yours." Kale lowered his head, his mane brushing her cheek. "Oh no. Every order I give feels like a betrayal. If I stop, they will replace me. If I continue, I destroy everything I believe in. Leora stepped closer, her voice low, intimate, steady. Then let me remind you who you are, not who they want you to be. She pressed her forehead against his, a simple gesture, yet filled with power. Well, it was not just affectionate, with seduction of the soul. A reminder of choice, of desire, of a future beyond the battlefield. Kale's breath caught in. That moment, the noise of war faded, replaced by the rhythm of two hearts refusing to surrender. Their bond deepened in secret moments like this, stolen between battles. Love became a quiet rebellion. Each touch, each shared look, seduced them away from despair and back toward hope. But hope, in war, is dangerous. The turning point came with betrayal. A trusted commander from Kale's side, fearful of losing power, revealed Kale's meetings with Leora to the elders. Rage followed. Kale was confronted before his warriors, accused of treason, of weakness, of endangering the Pride Lands. Some turned away from him. Others watched in silence, torn between loyalty and doubt. At the same time, Leora's pride faced its own fracture. A rival challenged her leadership, claiming her love had made her reckless. Too, in a brutal confrontation, she was forced to fight one of her own. The victory was hollow. Trust was broken. The cost of love grew heavier. War escalated into its most violent phase. A massive assault was launched at dawn. The sky burned red. The battlefield became a storm of sound and movement. Kale fought harder than ever, his strength fueled by desperation. Leora battled beside him when their lines crossed, back to back, protecting each other with unspoken precision. They were no longer just lovers. They were partners in survival. Then disaster struck. A massive rockslide, triggered by explosions of force and panic, tore through the center of the battlefield. Dust and stones swallowed everything. Kale was thrown aside, his body crushed beneath debris. Leora screamed his name, her voice tearing through the chaos. She fought through the rubble, ignoring pain, ignoring danger. She found him barely conscious, blood matting his mane, his breathing shallow. For a moment, the world narrowed to that single breath. Leora pressed close, her voice urgent, trembling. "Stay with me. You promised. You said we would face this together." Kale's eyes fluttered open. Even in pain, he smiled faintly. "I'm still here. I won't leave you." She stayed by his side as the battle raged around them, shielding him with her body, fighting anyone who came too close. In that moment, love was no longer a dream or a rebellion. It was survival itself. When the dust finally settled, the battlefield was silent except for distant cries of the wounded. Kale lived, but the war had changed everything. Both sides had suffered devastating losses. Neither could continue without destroying themselves completely. The elders demanded one final battle to end it all. Kale, weak but resolute, understood the truth. If the war continued, there would be nothing left to rule. That night, as he recovered beneath the stars, Leora lay beside him. Their bodies bore scars, but their hearts were unbroken. "This is the final test," Kale said quietly. "Not of strength, but of courage." Leora met his gaze. "Then let us choose love, even if the world refuses to." Sell, they held each other as the wind carried the scent of ash and rain. Tomorrow would decide everything: war or peace, loss or reunion, destruction or destiny. The Pride Land stood on the edge of its darkest hour, and the outcome would be shaped not by claws or crowns, but by a love that had already survived fire. Throw. The final dawn rose slowly, as if the sun itself hesitated to witness what the Pride Lands were about to become. A thin mist clung to the ground. softening the scars of war just enough to make the destruction look almost peaceful. Almost. Beneath that fragile calm lay the weight of every life lost, every roar silenced, every promise broken. This would be the last day. Everyone felt it. Kael stood once more before his pride, his body still aching from wounds that had not fully healed. Yet there was a steadiness in him now that had never existed before. The crown he had been born to wear felt lighter, less important than the truth he carried in his heart. He no longer fought to prove himself worthy of the throne. He fought to end the suffering the throne had demanded. Across the plain, Leora stood with her people, her posture proud despite the exhaustion etched into every movement. She had lost friends, family, certainty. But she had not lost purpose. The love she carried for Kael no longer felt fragile. It felt forged, like steel shaped by fire. Whatever happened today, she knew they had already changed each other forever. The armies formed in silence, no speeches. No chants. War had stripped away the need for ceremony. All that remained was resolve and fear, standing face to face. As the signal to advance echoed across the plains, Kael did not move forward. Instead, he stepped ahead of his warriors and let out a roar unlike any the Pride Lands had heard before. It was not a call to attack, it was a call to stop. Both sides hesitated. Confusion rippled through the lines. Kael's voice carried across the battlefield, raw and unwavering. He spoke of the cost of this war, of the lives already taken, of a future where nothing remained but ashes. He spoke of love, not as weakness, but as truth. Of how fear had ruled them longer than any king ever had. The elders shouted for him to stand down. Some warriors echoed them. Others listened, too. Then Leora stepped forward. She crossed the space between the two armies alone, her movements calm, deliberate. Every eye followed her. She spoke of survival, of generations raised in hatred they did not choose. She spoke of the moment she realized the enemy had a face, a heart, a story. She spoke of Kael not as a prince, but as a lion who chose compassion when violence was easier. For a long moment, the world held its breath. And then betrayal struck, one last time. A rival leader, driven by fear of losing power, charged. Chaos erupted as the fragile pause shattered. The final battle ignited with a fury greater than before. This time, something was different. Kael and Leora fought, not to win, but to protect. They placed themselves between fighters, broke clashes apart, shielded the wounded. Others began to follow their lead. One by one, warriors hesitated, lowered their claws, stepped back. The rival fell. The fighting slowed. Then, finally, it stopped. Silence spread across the battlefield, heavy and absolute. Rain began to fall, washed blood from fur and dust from wounds, soaking into the ground as if the land itself were cleansing old sins. Lions stood among former enemies, uncertain, exhausted, alive. The war was over not because one side had won, but because both had chosen to stop losing. The elders could no longer deny what stood before them. The Pride Lands still existed. The circle of life had not broken. If anything, it had widened. Kael approached Leora through the rain. For a heartbeat, neither spoke. Then he pressed his forehead to hers, the same simple gesture that had once been secret, now witnessed by all. There was no shame left in it, no fear. They had passed every test. Love had been challenged by duty and survived. It had been tested by war and endured. It had been tempted by despair and refused to surrender. Seduction had not been of the body alone, but of the soul, pulling them back from hatred, again and again, until peace became possible. In the days that followed, borders were redrawn, not with claws, but with understanding. The prides met not as enemies, but as survivors. Stories were shared. Grief was honored. Healing began slowly, imperfectly, but honestly. Kale was offered the crown. He declined. Instead, he chose to rule alongside the land, not above it, helping shape a new way forward where no single voice carried absolute power. Leora stood with him, not as a queen defined by title, but as a partner defined by choice. Together, they represented something the Pride Lands had never seen before. Unity born not from fear, but from love. On a quiet evening, long after the scars of war had begun to fade, Kale and Leora stood once more at the border where they had first met. The grass swayed gently, the sky burned gold. Mermaided, Leora said softly. Kale smiled, resting his head against hers. We didn't just survive. We changed everything. They had faced enemies, temptation, loss, and doubt. They had been seduced by fear and power and refused both. In the end, love had not destroyed the Pride Lands. It had saved them. And as the sun set over a healed savanna, two lions stood together, no longer divided by borders, no longer hunted by fate, finally completely belonging to each other.